Using a serger doesn't have to be a frustrating experience. I'm going to share some quick tips to make your life a little bit easier. Welcome to the Sewing Report. I'm Jennifer Moore, helping you discover your love of sewing. And we're here with the Brother 1034D Serger. I love this thing. I use it several times a week. It is a great value, and I'm going to share with you a few tips that I have learned from real practical experience that will hopefully help you not make the same mistakes I have. So let's get started. This is not going to be a full-out tutorial, but what I am going to do is show you a few little things that I've picked up just from working with this machine that have made my life a little less frustrating. So the first thing that I would recommend is to always make sure you test out the exact scrap of fabric that you're going to be using for your project before actually starting to serge the real deal. Because what happens is different fabrics will behave differently with the serger. So you want to make sure that you are using the exact same fabric so that you can make sure all of your settings are correct. So I've got some double knits here. I've got this bed sheet that I used. This is an all 100% cotton bed sheet and some canvas. All of these fabrics will require slightly different settings on the serger. So I'm actually going to show you what I'm talking about here. So I've got this scrap of knit fabric, and there are a few things you can change about your serger, which is the differential feed. And that means that it will either stretch out your fabric a little bit or it will kind of push it together as it's feeding through the serger. You can also change your stitch length, so you can have the stitches be farther apart or closer together, and you can change the stitch width. So that will be how wide your overlocking stitch is. Now, in full disclosure, this machine can do a lot of different things, but I really only use it for that one 4-thread overlock function because that's what I bought it for. You can do a lot more with it, but we're not going to get into all that today. There is a Craftsy class though that I do recommend. It's about using your serger, and I'll link it in the description box that you can check out. I have bought it, but I haven't really gone through all of it yet. But it goes through all the different functions that the serger has and different things you can do with it. But I just personally find that it's kind of a pain in the butt to convert things or change the settings. So I pretty much like to keep it as is because I really just bought it for that one function, which is to finish your seams. So I'm going to go ahead and put this double knit in here. So make sure when you're using your serger, you want the knife to be in one of the higher positions to start, and always make sure to lift your presser foot up before you put your fabric in it. So we're just gonna make sure this has, and I've noticed with the double knits I actually have this on the wrong setting just for demonstrative purposes. If you put this on the lowest setting, it's going to really stretch out your knit fabric and give it that wavy lettuce edge, which you do not want. Oops. Yeah, see, this is not going so well. So this is why you want to test things out. So I actually want this at the highest setting of gathering, and this will actually push your fabric through. See how much easier that was? The reason you're doing that is that this is kind of spongy fabric. And you'll see that my fabric here doesn't have that wave or curl to it. So that is why you want to set your differential feed higher for real spongy fabrics. So you want to have it lower for anything delicate like chiffons or even like jersey knits. You don't want to have it on the lowest setting, but you don't want to have it on this gathered setting. I'll show you what happens when you put a cotton fabric in on a gathered setting. It's not going to be pretty. Also, always keep a pair of scissors with you. You're definitely going to need them. All right, so I'm going to put this cotton fabric in here just for demonstrative purposes to show you what it will be like. We're going to feed this cotton fabric in here. Now, we've got the differential feed on 2, which is going to gather the fabric. Actually, that did not gather as much as I thought. But maybe that's because it's a very stable fabric. But you really don't want it on gathered for cotton. You more want this on like maybe 1.5. something like that. This is typically a better setting for cotton or woven fabrics. Another thing I've learned the hard way is when you are working with stretchy fabrics, say you're putting a neckband into a neckline and you always have the neckband be a little bit shorter and you will end up stretching it as you are serging it. You want to make sure that your stitch length is a little bit higher, because what happens is if you're stretching out the fabric and you already have it on a very narrow stitch length, when you snap it back into place, it's going to be really concentrated. So what you want to do is, if you are stretching it out, you want to make sure your stitch length is not on the lowest setting. You want to make sure it's maybe even at the highest setting, because it's going to be a little more concentrated after you're done. So I will show you how this will work. So I'm going to start sewing this knit fabric. And we're just going to cut this little piece off here. I love having scissors by the serger. It just makes your life a lot easier. And I'll show you what happens both ways when you have it on a narrower stitch length and on a wider stitch length. So this is actually on a pretty wide stitch length. So you see, I'm stretching out the fabric as I sew. So when it snaps back into place, it's actually more of the stitch length you want. Now, if I put this on a narrower stitch length and stretch this out, it's going to be very, very close together. In fact, too much. So let's try that. All right, so you see how this looks? This is way, way too concentrated. And in fact, if you do this on a cotton fabric, or if you're not using a ballpoint needle, you can actually tear your fabric. So that's not what you want. This is way too close together. That is why you want to have your stitch length be on the higher side. I've actually done that with a few different neck bands and it was not pretty. So I do not recommend doing that at all. So this is what you actually want. So this is a good stitch length. Just make sure to keep that in mind if you are using a knit fabric that you're going to be stretching as you're serging. We're going to test out this canvas here. And again, this is another reason why you should always test out your scrap fabric. So let's try it out on a few different settings. I'm going to move my stitch length down to 3, but I'll show you what happens if it's either on the lowest differential feed setting and on the highest differential feed setting. All right, this is on the lowest setting. Now this is actually kind of stretching out the fabric a little bit as it's feeding. And I'm going to change it up to the highest setting now, and we're going to see how that performs. Okay. Actually, this fabric does seem pretty stable, and both ways it seems to be performing pretty well. But you don't know that, so that's why you always want to test out your fabric on different settings to see how it looks. Now, here's one mistake that I've made more than once, and it's a little bit embarrassing, is that I have put my presser foot up and forgot to put it back down. So I'm going to show you what it will look like if you don't put your presser foot down. This is what happens. So sometimes, you know, you may start serging something, and then for some reason you have to like put your presser foot up to readjust something and you forget to put it back down. This has happened to me. Then you'll get this super ugly finished edge, and that is not a good thing. So always in your mind, make sure that you are remembering to always put your presser foot down Otherwise, you're going to get a little bit of a mess. The brother serger really hasn't required a whole lot of maintenance, but one thing I do regularly is make sure to clean out the insides after every couple of projects. So I'm going to take the front off and show you. Look at how filthy this is. I use Q-tips, and then I also use these Clorox triple action dust wipes to really help me. These things totally work, by the way. I'm going to link them below in the description box if you're interested in picking these up. These are amazing, and I use them for a lot more than just cleaning the serger. And basically, I'll just use the Q-tips to kind of knock some of this fuzz off. And then you can actually use the dust wipes to really grab onto some of this stuff, and it really will do it. It's not recommended that you use like an air blower just because you don't want these things to get further into the machine. Basically, I just use this, and you can even put this on the head of a Q-tip and just use this, and this won't push it around as much. This will actually grab onto all the dust and crap that's in the machine. You can also use this for the top. You can use this for anything, but notice when you're cleaning it out, you'll get a bunch of junk down below. So I just keep a trash can near whatever I'm doing, and then just keep sweeping this into the trash can. So that is how I clean out my serger. Changing out the thread, the thing that everybody struggles with. I personally find that just starting from scratch is the best way. I've seen some tutorials where you like knot your old thread into your new thread, but you don't want to damage your tension discs. So I find the easiest thing to do is just start all over again. So to change out the thread, you just cut your threads, run your tails, and now you've got a clean path to work with. So just take your old threads out, and I'm switching from dark gray to pink because my next project is going to have pink and blue fabric. So I thought this would match a lot more than the dark gray. All right, so let's get our new threads in here. And you're just going to run each of these through here. And I've gotten to the point where I can really rethread the serger in under 5 minutes. Unless I run into some problems, which occasionally you do, but hopefully this time it will go okay. And I've got these spool caps on the spool pins, and those are for any time you're using a serger cone. Also, I'm going to be using, of course, the tweezers that came with the machine to make my life a little easier when you're getting to the hard to reach places. Here we go. All right, so how I do it is that I will one by one just put these through the metal holders here. And then of course you've got to start with, these are all color coded, you have to start with number 3 first, the third one. So I'm just going to put these, and I'll put these all through the tension discs just to get them started. Okay, so these are all through the tension discs. So now you have to go through, and I got to start with the green one. And literally this machine is color coded. So once you get the hang of it, it actually really isn't that bad. So I'm just going to guide these through. And then this one goes, so this is one of your looper threads. And I just need to make sure to get this in here. And if you're having trouble, make sure to just snip a little bit of this off to give you a cleaner end to your thread. And you just really need to put that through there and then use your tweezers to grab the other end. So this is your first thread. And then of course, you're actually going to want to have this go under the presser foot. Oops. This is why these tweezers are amazing. All right, so now we're ready for the 4th thread, and this is blue. So you just need to make sure to run these through these 2 metal guides through this into this little hook here, and then you're actually going to pull this section out here. Place your thread in here, put it back in, and then you're gonna run it through this tiny little eye right here. But then you wanna make sure, and it even has it in the picture, you wanna make sure that when you're running this through that it goes under this upper looper hook. Here we go. So I got this in. All right, so we've got the hardest two done, and that is 3 and 4 threads. So now it's the easy breezy part, which is doing the needle threading. Yeah, I don't know why this is like the order it is, but you're supposed to do 3, 4, 2, and 1. That's the order you thread it in. So this one's actually pretty easy. All you have to do is guide this through here, and this is more like threading a traditional sewing machine. And then you just have to do, and you do the right and then left. So again, I always like to, for whatever reason, spit on it, which is probably not the most sanitary thing, but you know, it works. And then try to get your tired eyes to see through the needle. All right, this one went okay. There we go. And you always want to make sure you want all your threads to be under the presser foot. So, and we're going to test this out to see how I did with the threading. And also one note is that thread cone number 3 is going to use by far the most thread because this is the looper. So one thing I've been doing is that when you're switching out the serger cone threads, kind of switch it up a little bit. Otherwise, this one's going to run out of thread way before the others. So if you're kind of mixing them up, you know, maybe put number 3 to number 1 and then kind of move them around, sort of like flipping your mattress, just so that you don't get a lot of wear on just one side. All right, so we're down to the home stretch, folks. And I actually don't think I need to cut it. It seems pretty clean. But yeah, the eye, this is obviously you can use a needle threader if you have one. I don't know. Apparently I just like to torture myself, so I'm just doing it this way. Why? All right, I think that worked. So, and to make things a little less like you want to throw the serger out the window, use the tweezers. Honestly, out of everything that came with the serger, the tweezers are by far the most valuable thing, besides the serger itself. All right, so now you're ready to test it out and then start chaining off. All right, hopefully we're good. All right, put your little catch basket back. I'm gonna try this again, and hopefully this works out better than the last time. All right, remember to keep your presser foot down, and I wanna go slow, just in case. All right, and we're in business. So that is how you change your serger threads. Obviously, sometimes it's not always a walk in the park, but it's a necessary evil of using a serger. I have not thrown it out the window, so win for me. And hopefully you found these tips helpful. Again, I'm Jennifer Moore with the Sewing Report. If you like these sorts of videos, feel free to subscribe to this channel and make sure to smash the like button so you can show me some love. I will see you next time for another video. I like to do fabric hauls, some technique type videos, and sometimes just showing off stuff I make. So I will see you next time.